wrote in Questions and Answers on the Science of Mind in 1935 about a particular kind of affirmative prayer that he called treatment. Treatment is not for the purpose of making things happen. It is to provide within ourselves an avenue through which they may happen. Treatment opens up avenues of thought, expands consciousness, and lets reality through. It clarifies the mentality, removes the obstructions of thought, and lets in the light. We already live in a perfect universe, but this needs to be seen before it can become a part of our experience. Treatment removes doubt and fear, lets in the realization of the presence of spirit, and it is necessary while we are confronted by obstructions or obstacles. The origin of every problem is ultimately to be found within us, and the answer to every problem will be discovered in spiritual realization. Realizing the power of our words, let us say the affirmation for April with enthusiasm. I fully live
anchored in the
awareness of my unity with the whole, and I allow the authentic self to be revealed in my prayers, thoughts, words, and actions.
All right. Thank you so much, Lori. It's a beautiful quote, I think, that so succinctly and powerfully demonstrates this thing called spiritual mind treatment, which is the form of prayer that we teach here. And it doesn't mean that other prayers are not effective. I think I want to make that very clear. It's just that this particular prayer that Ernest Holmes has gifted the planet has a way of really moving our consciousness up the scale into oneness consciousness. It's affirmative, it's scientific, and it's very deeply spiritual. And it anchors us in our authentic self, that soul made visible, that divine presence that we are made visible. So I'd like to take some time today to really deepen into our understanding of this powerful modality that really makes a difference in who we are and how we show up on the planet. So to understand treatment, though, I think it's really important to talk about consciousness. And there is a beautiful analogy that I just love. It's the elevator analogy of how consciousness works. Consciousness is something we're born into, or we simply are. The universe, the divine presence is pure awareness, pure consciousness. And we are plugged into that, or we are of that consciousness. There's a lot of contention among the scientific community thinking that consciousness is something that comes from the brain. And the spiritual perspective is that consciousness gives rise to the physical, not is a product of the physical. So it's a different paradigm that we're looking at here. So think of, if you would, an infinite skyscraper with a glass elevator on the outside of it that continues on up this infinite skyscraper. And think of what it's like when you're down on the ground floor of a skyscraper. The lower levels of consciousness. You see lots of detail. You see the cars, the trucks, the people, the asphalt, the concrete of the buildings, whatever is around. There's a lot of detail that's seen. The world of effects is what we call it, or the world of form. There's a tendency at these lower levels of consciousness to have a worldview that everything is simply physical, that there's nothing else. And so it's a very limited, the narrow consciousness we were just talking about, narrow perspective. In these lower levels of consciousness, there is a tendency to think that whatever is happening in the world is what makes me feel the way I feel. Okay? So So then what happens if we think that things make us feel the way we feel? Then we react. Something happens that we don't like, we react with fear and resentment and anxiety and so on and so on. And we also think if we can make stuff happen, if we can have good things happen, that they will make us feel better. And so there's a tendency then to want to try to fix things and control things and have things show up a certain way in order for us to feel good. So this realm is the realm of what's called victim consciousness. Life is doing it to me, and a very narrow perspective. So a lot of suffering and misery and upset can go on from this perspective. So now, as we begin to move up the glass elevator, up into higher and higher levels, the mind gets less cluttered. There's less to look at, so just think of the clutter of the mind falling away. A broader perspective. We continue to move up. We're above all of the other buildings. We can now see over the horizon. We continue to go up. We see the curve of the planet. Up, 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 up. Soon we see the entire planet below us. We have this broad perspective, clear mind. In these higher states of consciousness, clear mind, broad perspective, present moment awareness. Think of the astronauts when they were looking down on the planet. It was like, wow. Awe, wonder, total present moment awareness. This is the state of consciousness of the authentic self. Everybody with me? Okay. So in these expanded states of consciousness, we have access, because the mind is clear, the field of pure potentiality and possibility, all solutions, all things that we could ever desire are able to come through now more easily, because we don't have all that clutter in the mind to block it out. This is what spiritual mind treatment does for us. It moves us vertically up the scale of consciousness into the field of pure potentiality and possibility, clear mind, where we can respond. It clears away the clutter of the mind so that we are more available to solution, to ideas, to a greater vision of who and what we are. Okay, so let's take a breath. Breathe that in. Contemplate that for a moment. So, what is it that drives the elevator up and down? That's the key. What would you guess? What? I'm hearing somebody whisper. Thoughts. Thoughts drive the elevator up and down. And so in the lower levels, we're not aware of this. And the thing is we can go up and down the elevator, different parts of the elevator throughout our day. Anybody experience that sometimes? Sometimes you're up there and sometimes you're not. This is part of our human experience, because it is, with the world of effect being what it is so tempting to fall into the illusion of thinking that something out there is making me miserable, or something out there, I need something out there to make me happy. It's a trance state. When you listen to some of the people who are in hypnotherapy, they will tell you it's a trance state. We get caught in a trance of limitation and thinking that it's something out there that's the cause of how we feel. So a good way to tap into what we're thinking, if we're feeling low, it's our feelings. If we're feeling low, we know we're caught in the trance of limitation. Our thoughts are not where we want them to be. If we're feeling high, we know we're moving up the scale of consciousness. So the conscious use of our thought is what it's all about here. We have the power within us. There is that observer self, which is our true self, that can choose those thoughts in each and every moment and begin to help us move up the scale of consciousness. So again, spiritual mind treatment, this beautiful form of prayer that we teach here, has the ability to treat our minds, our thoughts, with higher thought. It's set up in a beautiful sequence from God is all there is type thoughts to I am therefore of that presence, and which moves us right up into that state of oneness consciousness, and from there we speak our truth, the realization step. Give thanks and release it and let it go. Let the universal law do its work. So this form of prayer then, spiritual mind treatment, what it does is it convinces our own selves of this higher truth. And it helps us to anchor the authentic self, these higher states of consciousness, in this physical reality. It helps us to anchor that so that we are then the embodiment of that more and more and more often. The more we practice spiritual mind treatment, the more we tune in, the more we practice our meditation, our visioning. The visioning process is a powerful, powerful way to access higher thought, to begin to deepen into, begin to act as if we are the authentic self, because we're tuning into our intuition, that innate intelligence within us. All right. I love that elevator concept. So this month we've been talking about 7 intrinsic qualities of the authentic self, and I gave you a handout. So if you could pull that handout right now, I'd like to just go over them by affirming the essence of them together. So are we ready? Let's go ahead and do them together. So wholeness is the first quality, intrinsic quality of the authentic self. So let's say it together. I am whole. I am complete. I am one with the one source. Reverence. I feel profound respect and awe for all of life, for it is all God. A beautiful Earth Day statement, right? Statement of truth. And you know, I wanted to share with you too, just for those of you who weren't here, the definition this is one of the definitions in the dictionary of reverence. Listen to this. Profound, adoring, awed respect. If we all had profound, adoring, and awed respect for one another and for our planet, how different would it be? Beautiful. Let's move on to fearlessness. I am fearless because I am guided and protected by God. If we know that God is all there is, this presence is infinite good, it lives, moves, and has its being in all of life, including us, then we are fearless. We understand that in each and every moment, we have the guidance that we need, if we take the time and tune in, to pull us through any challenge, to meet anything on the planet. And that's why those of us who are spiritual progressives never give up on anything. You know, you can call us an idealist or whatever, but we don't give up. We know that there's a solution. All right, integrity. My outer actions reflect my inner wholeness. Beautiful. Humility. In humility, I am teachable, open to new perspectives. Okay, remember when you're in the lower levels of consciousness, there's a tendency to get stuck in one limited perspective. Okay, when we move up into those higher realms, we're open. We're now open to all different ways of seeing things, which means we're open to solution. Equanimity. I face all of life's conditions with ease and grace. So equanimity, and I think it's another word for poise. I was contemplating this, that it's the ability to stay centered in who we are in the midst of any circumstance. Equanimity. I love that word. I love it. And love. I am the avenue through which love heals and blesses. We are, because we are of that love of the divine. Our nature is love. We're made out of love. Think about that. That's who we are. That is actually our set point when you clear away all the other nonsense that's going through our minds. We're just pure love. Anybody get that feeling sometimes when you want to just go and hug everybody? Yes. It's that love, it's that natural state that we are in truth. So, let's move in today to just kind of anchor all of this in. I'll bring all of this together. So there's this quality called faith that's required in this human experience in order to have faith in the good, to know that there is a power and a presence and a life that is infinite good. And that faith actually is also a natural way of being. If you watch little children, you see just the incredible faith that they have in the good of life. And they practice it, yeah? So faith is a natural way of being for the authentic self. And faith is an implicit trust in the good. And I also was thinking about it and also realized it's a state of allowing. When we are in those higher frequencies, we are able to just allow life to move through us and as us, allow new realizations to pop into our awareness because we're in this relaxed state. Faith does that for us. It puts us in a state of relaxation and openness and receptivity. That is the key to spiritual power. Spiritual power is based on all the other things that we were talking about, this idea of oneness, the goodness of the universe, and just the awareness that as we relax into it and trust it, that everything that is required for healing, prospering, creating, is there. We are a blessing to ourselves and to others when we live in a state of faith. Yes. So the master teacher Jesus spoke of faith so powerfully and so beautifully. So this is the Lamsa version of Mark chapter 11, verses 22 through 24. If you have faith in God, truly I say unto you, whoever should say to this mountain, be moved and fall into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes what he says will be done, it will be done. Therefore I say to you, anything you pray for and ask, believe that you will receive it, and it will be done. It will be done. So faith, again, is the key to spiritual power, the power of creation itself. It's the power behind our words. So prayer without ceasing. We've heard this in the ancient scriptures of the Bible, how important this is. And so what does this mean? This means practicing. This is something I picked up from yoga. Yoga is not about being perfect. It's about practicing. Right, Candace? Yes. It's the same thing with faith. We practice it. We practice it through thought. When we choose to practice faith, when we choose it, it chooses us. It chooses us, but it's a practice. So we don't have to just automatically be 100% faithful all the time, every day. We practice it. We practice it over and over and over again. And there are some ways to help us come back into alignment when we find ourselves feeling low, when we know we're not in a state of faith, and moving back into alignment with who we are in truth. So let's begin with a powerful affirmation, and I just want you to repeat this after me. I'm going to read it first. I put my undivided faith and trust in the all-power of God the Good behind my words. Okay? So I'm going to break it down. I put undivided faith and trust in the all-power of God the Good behind my words. Okay. So we build faith by affirming that, by choosing it, and also there's 3 powerful questions that you can ask yourself when you find yourself stuck. The first one is, who do you think you are? The second one is, what are you thinking? And the third one is, what will you do when you feel stuck? What will you do when you practice this and you still feel stuck? So, who do you think you are? We've talked about this all month long, who we are in truth, whose we are in truth. We are this presence of pure spirit, pure potential, pure possibility, having this human experience in a body and realizing that body and everything in the physical realm is just simply spirit in form. Everything's spirit, everything is God. So we also know that God is the all-power, the power that gave rise to this universe. And now we're hearing multi-universes that are infinite. You know, this amazing, amazing power. And we've learned that it's centered everywhere and its circumference is nowhere. So this all-power that is greater than who we are has a doorway. There's a doorway that we can walk through and have access to this power. Do you know where it is? Within! It's within us, yes. The doorway, so say after me, the doorway to God is found within me.
The doorway to God is found within me.
Yes. So remembering that we are unified with that presence strengthens our faith. That's the first step, is remembering who we are and where this power and presence lies. We know it's everywhere, but we have access it in our own being by turning within. So when we're feeling down, the negative self-talk is going, oh, I can't do this, or whatever it is, we have the power to pivot, not to fight with that thought, but to pivot to a higher truth. So let's say you're feeling not good enough, and I want you to say the word pivot after I say the negative self-thought. So ready? I'm not good enough.
Pivot.
I am the divine made manifest. Say that with me.
I am the divine made manifest.
Okay, here's the next negative thought. I can't seem to succeed.
Pivot.
Here's the higher thought. I am the success of God in person.
I am the success of God in person.
I don't deserve abundance.
Pivot.
I am the heir to the kingdom.
I am the heir to the kingdom.
I don't merit love.
Pivot.
I am the beloved of the beloved.
I am the beloved of the beloved.
Feel that. That's wonderful. Okay, I can't have good things in my life.
Pivot.
I am the all good in person.
I am the all good in person.
And also there's a beautiful affirmation treatment by Ernest Holmes that goes, good and more good is mine, and ever increasing good is mine. There is no limit to the good that is mine. Everywhere I go, I see the good, I feel it, I experience it. Good presses itself against me, flows through me, expresses itself in me, and multiplies itself around me. Can you feel how that goes, woo, right up through the ceiling? I love that one. Have you noticed I've memorized it? It's a really good one. All right. A good response to that, I'm not good enough, or I don't have enough good, or whatever. Okay. I can't stand up for myself. Okay. I am God's power in expression.
I am God's power in expression.
I don't have enough to give. I am the giving nature of the divine.
I am the giving nature of the divine.
I don't have any talents to share. I am the doorway through which God enriches the world.
I am the doorway through which God enriches the world.
Yes. So that's how we pray without ceasing, by remembering who we are. That's the first step. The next question is, what are you thinking? So that, we were noticing that we were thinking some thoughts about ourselves that weren't so great. But again, tuning in when we're not feeling anything other than love, peace, joy, abundance, wisdom, we know that we are caught in a toxic trance. A toxic trance, okay? Toxic thinking. What I have found is that if I can label it, I'm in a toxic trance or I'm having toxic thoughts, then that breaks the spell. Just by labeling it, that's what's going on. Not even I'm in. I could just say, oh, toxic thoughts, toxic trance. That's probably a better way to do it. Don't do the I am part. But just label it the way it is. It breaks the trance, and then it allows you to move into and turn within to the authentic self and pose the question, how can I see this differently? This is the kind of questions that are part of the visioning class. If you haven't taken the visioning class, I highly recommend you do it because it trains you to turn within and access higher wisdom, higher intelligence, to move beyond the surface mind right down to the core and center of the field of all possibility and all potentiality. All right. So that's just a really quick, easy way to break the toxic trance. Label it, and then ask the authentic self within, how can I see this differently? Because it's our perspective that's off, right? We're into limited thinking. We're not open to new ideas and new perspectives when we're in that state. So we move up the elevator of consciousness also. This is the other piece, by higher thoughts, by reading words of spiritual truth or speaking words of spiritual truth. Paul, the Apostle Paul, writes this in Corinthians. He says, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honorable, whatsoever things are just and pure and lovely and of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. It's really clear. It's right there. Think on these things. The last one, what do you do when you feel stuck? Well, this is where I love this beautiful quote in How to Use the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. It says, the thought that reaches the highest level will have the greatest power. Spiritual consciousness is power. Our licensed professional practitioners are trained in higher consciousness, spiritual power, and the use of higher thought in the form of spiritual mind treatment. So again, spiritual mind treatment is affirmative prayer. We say it's scientific because when you use it, it produces results. And you can feel it immediately by the energy moving up. And if it's practiced on a regular basis, there is a continual noticeable change and shift in the presence of the person, a higher way of viewing life. And maybe not getting stuck in the mud for so long, an ability to shift out of it. So it helps us to correct physical, emotional, and mental difficulties by clearing away thoughts of negation, of doubt, of fear, and also opens the way to the awareness of the presence of God within you and within all. This helps you to shift into your innate wisdom of the authentic self where you receive answers to prayers. So I'd like to take this time now to offer everyone who is here an opportunity to experience spiritual mind treatment. And I'm inviting the practitioners to take their places in the front. You know, I think the front of the room will probably work just fine today. Up in the front of the room. And what I'm going to invite everybody to do is to choose something that you would like prayer on. And I would like you to anchor yourself as best as you can in your authentic selves. And when you step forward, you're going to be keeping your question brief or your request brief. And I'm asking our practitioners to keep them brief as well so that we can serve everybody here today. When our time is up, I'm going to gong the gong, and anybody who hasn't had a chance to can still receive prayer after service. Okay, and then Dan is going to, those who do not want prayer, please just hold the silence. And Dan, would you please play the Eternal Om so that we have some privacy as people are making their requests? And when you're ready, come on forward. That this life is the presence of infinite potentiality and possibility. That the doorway to this field of pure potential and possibility, otherwise known as our innate wisdom, is already there, available for each and every one of us. Available for each and every person on this entire planet. So I know that as we tune into this state of connection, oneness with all of life, that we truly are a blessing to ourselves, a blessing to our families, a blessing to our spiritual community, a blessing to our world. And so it is with great joy and excitement that I embrace this higher truth of the divine self that we are, by inviting all of us to give thanks for it, releasing the word into the universal law of mind. And then let's all say together, yes, yes. And so it is.
Here I stand.